get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid, the most popular channel on the internet about homesteading that's not about homesteading. I said that wrong. Hold on. Bear with me. This is going to be a totally raw, unedited video because I'm kind of burnt out on all that stuff. Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid, the most popular homesteading channel on the internet that has nothing to do with homesteading. That's how we say it. Guys, I'm beat. I got some new gigs, and by contract, I can't tell you what they are. But that's what I was alluding to about edits and scripts. If you find yourself watching streaming anything in the evenings and you see these commercials that you're forced to watch and you can't skip through, and you find yourself saying, is that? Yeah. Well, gotta do what you gotta do to pay the bills, brah. All right. I'm sure there's somebody big out there that started in commercials and across various social media networks. You never know where your crap's going to be distributed because they just pay you. You know what I mean? Hey, we all got to have jobs. Everybody's always saying in the comment section, this guy needs a job. Well, I just went out and got like 6 new ones, brah. So back off. All right. So watch back here. You never know who or what may or may not show up. You like the hair? A lot of people have been saying they like the hair. It's one last hurrah, because I got a giant bald spot back here and it's getting bigger. So I figure if I'm going to have long hair again, I better do it now, because in a couple of years I might not be able to. So that's what's going on with the hair. All right, so what's going on with today's video? I'm going to read you some stories. Just saw the Amazon Prime delivery guy leave a box down at the gate. I went down and got it, and it's like 20 copies of True Hauntings Volume 3. Personal stories of real experiences with the paranormal, supernatural, cryptids, aliens, and UFOs. Should have put comma, etc. Huh, why not? Might have left something out. This is the 3rd volume. It's available in print and Kindle on Amazon. You can get autographed print copies by me. A Erie lady lives in Well, she lives in a different state. I am not editing anything. Anyway, I'll make sure that by the time this video is uploaded, I've put a group sale where you can get volumes 1, 2, and 3 together to save on shipping from our Etsy store. Links in the description box below. I'm just going to read you some stories. I want to thank each and every one of you who submit stories for these things. I figured we'd get enough stories to make the first volume, but then I didn't know, how many we'd get after that. But they came in so quick that we had the 2nd volume halfway finished before the first one even went to print. It's just crazy. So here's the 3rd one. It actually came out a few weeks ago. The shipping was just slowed because of the holidays. But volume 4, well, it's not going to be long before volume 4 is out. If you've got a story, something you've personally experienced, or if it's an experience from somebody that you know personally, very close enough. It's got to be closer than government work, okay? Because you got to know they're being honest. Can't say so much about government work now, can we? Good story, send it to us. You can email it to the channel. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. crazylake@mail.com. And we have several folks who continue to submit stories. Thank you. Keep submitting them. You're not sending us too many, okay? You got stories to tell them. Otherwise, they're not going to get told. And what better way to tell them than by preserving them in print? So I didn't pick anything out. I have this. This is the receipt from the order. I'll just put it in the book. Most of these are not very long, so I'm going to be able to read you a few. I hope you like them. I'm just going to flip through at random. Don't have any of them specifically picked that I wanted you to hear. The first one is called The Man at the Window That Wasn't There, submitted by Stephen Bain. So, Stephen, if you're watching here, you get to see your story. Doesn't say in here where Stephen's from. It says, hi, Crazy Lake. I love your YouTube channel, Homesteading Off the Grid, the most successful homesteading channel that has nothing to do with homesteading, as you call it. Should have read this story first. I would have gotten it right the first time. Great name. Anyone who can't see the genius behind what you've done is a simpleton. Duh. Anyway, quick story. When I was a kid, we lived in an old house, much like the one you and your family live in. It was certainly more than 100 years old at the time. I was in kindergarten when we bought it, and I remember while being shown around the house by the realtor, we were in the master bedroom, which was downstairs. As we were all leaving the room, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a man staring at me through the window. But here's the deal. There was no window there. It was a wall. And on the other side of the wall was the kitchen. I wrote it off to seeing things that weren't there. I mentioned it to my mother, and I guess she remembered it because about a year later, she said she had the same experience. As she was leaving the master bedroom one morning, she thought she caught a glimpse of a man staring at her through a window that wasn't there. A window in the middle of the wall that separated the bedroom from the kitchen. She said it was the bright sunlight shining through the window coming from behind the man that had caught her attention and made her look. However, when she turned her head to look at the wall directly, of course, it was just a wall. My mother shared this story with my father that evening at dinner, and he said he had some sort of recurring dream that he was being awakened in the mornings by the sun shining through a window in that wall. When he wakes up and sits up, of course, he's reminded that there is no window there, just a wall, on the other side of which was the kitchen. Fast forward until I'm in high school. My parents decided to do an addition on the house to make the kitchen and dining room areas bigger. The construction crew comes in to tear the old kitchen and dining room off the side of the house to make the extension, and what they found was a double wall. The house had been built in the late 1800s, and originally the wall in the master bedroom that separated it from the kitchen was not added until the 1920s. That wall had not been added to the 1920s, so the original wall had been the original wall of the house. When they tore the kitchen off, they found that in between the wall of the kitchen and the master bedroom, there was the original wall. And get this, it had a window in it. The glass was still intact. We have no idea of explaining this, and we have no idea who the man might have been that my mother and I saw. But we're all in agreement that houses can be haunted simply by their own spirits. Keep up the great work on your channel. I enjoy every episode. Sincerely, Stephen Bain. Wow, that's creepy, isn't it? You talk about a haunted house, it's like that house was not so much haunted by the spirit of a person as it was the spirit of the house, like the original structure. Whew, that's insane. All right, let's flip through here randomly. Okay, here's one. It's like just looks like a page and a half long. Page and a half. It's called The Lost. Well, you know what? That one was submitted anonymously. So I want to see if some of you guys and girls are watching the channel. Here's this. I Saw What I Saw. Submitted by Robert Reeves. Robert Reeves. Doesn't say where Robert's from either. But let's give Robert's story a read. The paper's blown away. I'll get it later, promise. I don't leave trash on my property. Okay. I Saw What I Saw, submitted by Robert Reeves. Hi, Kevin. I've been following your YouTube channel off and on for about a year now. I have a story for you that you might want to share with others. You have my permission to use it on your channel or in print if you desire. Please just make sure to edit any mistakes if you choose to use my name, which I give you permission to do as well, so I don't look like a dumbass. Well, Robert Erie edited your story, so I don't know. Anyway, I was inspired to share my story with you because I was recently watching one of your slightly older videos where you were reading an email someone else had sent in about a UFO. I totally believe their story because I had an almost identical experience. The only difference really is that whereas their UFO had lights, mine did not. I used to smoke. Fortunately, I quit more than 10 years ago. When I smoked, I would never smoke indoors. Though I was a smoker, I couldn't stand the smell of the smoke, and I didn't want to have a house that smelled like cigarette smoke, though I do love the smell of wood smoke from our wood stove in the winter. I live out in the middle of nowhere, like you and your family. I'm not too far from town, but I'm far enough out to where there are no artificial lights. I love it. When the stars are out, you can see them better than anywhere. I know you know what I mean. Yes, I do. I come out and look at them all the time. Anyway, it's been about 12 years or so ago, but I was outside smoking one night. There were no clouds and the stars were crazy shiny, and the moon wasn't full, but it was about half. It was one of those nights that once you've been outside for 5 minutes or so, your eyes adjust and you can almost see as if it were day. This was during summer, and I'd noticed that I couldn't hear the frogs from the creek. I couldn't hear the crickets or cicadas either. It was an eerily quiet night. So I'm almost done with my cigarette, and I'm looking up at the stars, and this huge black sphere goes floating across the sky. Though it was dark, it was easy to see this thing, whatever it was, because it blacked out all of the stars behind it as it passed. I lowered my cigarette down to my side and actually dropped it unfinished and said, "What the F word?" out loud. Kevin, I watched this thing hover above me for a full 5 minutes before continuing to float away. And when it did float away, I could clearly make it out until it went over the next ridgeline. I have no way of knowing how large it was because I have no idea how high off the ground it was. It could have been only 50 feet or so, and if it was about 20 feet in diameter. Or, and what's more terrifying is that it could have been a mile high, and if it was, it would have been the size of a city. This thing had no lights and it made no sound. It was just there like a big black mass. Kevin, I have no idea what I saw that night. I told several friends and relatives about it, and they all acted like I was crazy, but I know that I saw what I saw, and I just told you exactly what I saw. Keep up the good work with your YouTube channel, and thank you for giving me another outlet to share my story, one where I know my story will be accepted, not ridiculed. Your fan and viewer, Robert Reeves. Thank you, Mr. Reeves. It's windy out here today. See if we can get another one in here. Another one or two. It's almost my nap time, folks. I was thinking earlier today, you can tell the difference between being young and being old by gauged upon your thought processes in regard to your nap. If you don't look forward to it, if you kick and scream because you don't want to take it, you're still young. But when you look forward to your nap, especially when you start looking forward to your nap earlier and earlier in the day, you're old. I guess I've reached that because as soon as I have lunch every day, I'm like, man, I'm ready for a nap. But I typically like to wait till around 2. All right, Angie Corbin, we'll read your story. It's a story called Lucky Numbers, submitted by Angie Corbin. Does Angie tell us where she lives? Yeah, Strongsville, Ohio, or Ohio, as they'd say there. Angie Corbin, Lucky Numbers. Hi, Kevin. I've been watching your show on YouTube since way back when you actually used to make homesteading videos. Thanks, Angie. I found your channel when I was looking for a video to show me how to load my staple gun, of all things, and I found yours. Out of curiosity, I checked out the rest of your channel, and I found it to be quite the enjoyable hodgepodge of just about everything. Well, except homesteading. That was a fake laugh. Come on, enough's enough, Angie. We get the point. It seems you've moved away from that. But it's easy to see why. You have the most popular homesteading channel on YouTube that has nothing to do with homesteading, since you're so much more than a one-trick pony. Okay, there. Thank you. At least have a bit of a humble salt in there with that. Remember, it's when you insult somebody, but you give them a little bit of a compliment inside the insult to make it look like it's really a compliment, but it's an insult. Angie, I think you just humble salted me. I invented that word, by the way. Trademark, copyright, etc. Okay, anyone who can't appreciate that is one-dimensional, in my opinion, and you shouldn't lose a moment's peace thinking about them. I don't, Angie. Anyway, I love listening to your stories of the macabre. I've always enjoyed such stories, and I always viewed them as merely entertainment, what-if scenarios to make your spine tingle, so to say. However, I had an experience more than 20 years ago that changed my mind about all of that. Let's just say it made me a true believer in the possibility of all things strange and unexplainable. During my final semester of college, I was working the overnight shift in a small convenience store in a small college town. It sucked. I hated that job and it made me miserable, as you would say, but I needed it. My parents made too much money for me to qualify for grants, but they didn't help pay for my college. They had more kids than they could afford to care for, really, other than just providing the bare necessities required to avoid having CPS called in. So I had to take out student loans, and I had to work 20 hours per week the entire time I was in college. It took me 5 years to graduate because of this, but I finally did. My education and degree has allowed me to live much more comfortably since. And Angie, I would like to point out that on top of that student loan debt you also got some character. It's priceless, or at least valueless, because you can't pay your bills with it. Anyway, well, you know what, though? Actually, you can. You can. Character is still king in my book. Not this one, but you know what I mean. Okay. Anyway, there was this little middle-aged woman that would come into the store every morning just before 6 a.m. That's when I got off and would go home and eat something and then make it to my 8 o'clock class. This woman's name was Sarah, and she always bought one thing, and at times two things. The one thing she always bought was a cup of coffee that had been in the pot since my shift started the night before at 10 p.m. I would point out to her that I'd made a fresh pot within the hour, but she insisted on drinking the old stale coffee, and she pleaded with me not to throw it out, save it just for her. Anyway, she always brought something with her. It was in powder form, and she kept it rolled up in a napkin in her jacket pocket. She would pour this into the bottom of her styrofoam cup, then pour the coffee on top of it, allowing it to mix. I always just assumed it was some sort of sweetener, but I have reason to believe it might have been something altogether different. A few minutes after taking her first drink of coffee, she would kind of zone out, like she was in a daze, but it didn't last long, only about 10 seconds. And then she would make her way to the plastic cases of lottery tickets. The store I worked in sold about 20 different kinds. She would put the end of the index finger of whichever hand she wasn't holding her coffee mug with to the glass, and she would say, "Nope, nope, nope, yes, nope, yes." And she went down the line, and then she would leave the store and tell me she would see me tomorrow. Each day she would come in and do this, and each day I thought she was crazy. However, after about a couple of weeks, I decided to try something. One night, while working my boring shift, during which maybe 3 or 4 people came in all night, I made a diagram on a piece of paper. I drew boxes representing each different lottery ticket we offered. The following morning, when Sarah came into the store for her stale coffee and to perform her strange ritual, I put a check mark in the boxes that she'd said yes to as she tapped the plastic ticket cases. As usual, when she was finished, she told me she'd see me tomorrow, and then she left. There were a couple of people that would always buy lottery tickets just before I left my shift. One was a middle-aged woman on her way to work, and one was a middle-aged man on his way home from work. The first morning I made my diagram, I recommended each of them buy a ticket from the bin that Sarah had said yes to. The woman refused, and as usual, she pissed away her hard-earned money or someone else's who'd given it to her on a bad ticket. The man said, "Why not?" And he bought one of the tickets Sarah had said yes to, and he won $5. "You must be lucky," he said when he'd won. "Try this one," I said, tapping another box Sarah had said yes to, and he won $20. "Holy shit," he said. "What next?" There was only one other box Sarah had said yes to, and I told him to buy one from that box. He won $5. He wanted to keep playing, but I told him that all the others were probably losers. He didn't believe me, and like everyone who plays the lottery and other forms of gambling games, he kept playing, and he eventually lost all of his money. He didn't seem to care. He said nothing ventured, nothing gained. Then he left. I watched Sarah do this morning after morning the entire time I had that job. When that guy who'd won, upon my suggestions that were not so random, came back in and asked me to make more suggestions, I intentionally suggested the tickets Sarah had said nope to because I didn't want to somehow get myself into something I couldn't get out of. After the guy lost on my suggestions, 2 mornings straight, he stopped asking for them. I never made any more suggestions, but I will point out that I paid attention, and when people would buy from the cases that Sarah had said yes to, they always won. I never saw anyone win big money, but they did win something. On my last day on that job, I asked Sarah why she never bought any lottery tickets. Her answer gave me shivers. She said, "Because I don't want to lose it." Thinking I might have misheard her, I said, "You mean you don't want to lose your money?" "That's not what I said," she said, looking me straight in the eyes, and her eyes were clear as a bell, and I could tell there was nothing crazy about her. "I don't want to lose it," she said, enunciating the word at the end. It is the word she enunciated. "What do you mean, it?" I asked, plain dumb. "I think you know exactly what I mean," she said, and then she smiled, and then she left. I went to that store for incidental odds and ends from time to time for the remaining month I lived in that small college town before graduating. I never saw Sarah again. There was no way that it was merely coincidence that she knew which tickets were winners. I've tried to figure out throughout the years if she was psychic or if there was something magical about whatever it was she mixed in her stale coffee each morning, or if she was ever even there at all. I know one thing, however, that is that there is some really, really, really strange stuff in this world that cannot be explained. And people who don't even give it a second's worth of consideration are the most closed-minded fools among us. Give my best to your beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and your handsome son, and I hope your family has a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year. Angie Corbin, Strongsville, Ohio. Thank you, Angie. We had a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year. Hope you did too. Hope everybody out there watching did as well. So again, folks, you can get the True Hauntings volumes on Amazon and Kindle or print. You can get autographed print copies on our Etsy store. The links of both of those places are in the description box. You can support the channel by way of Super Chat beneath. There's a little $ with a heart in it because everyone loves money. But the biggest way in which you can support this channel is simply by continuing to come back and watch the videos that we publish on it. We appreciate each and every single one of you, whether you never buy a book or Dearly's Delicious Lumpia or give us super chats or whatever. If you're giving us your time to watch what we're doing, we appreciate you, okay? Now, it's a new year. Everybody go out there and do something great all freaking year long. That's why it's here. See y'all for next time. Wait a minute. Not going to edit because I got to go to work this afternoon after my nap. Pay attention to those commercials when you're watching those streaming things on all those various online streaming channels. You never know when I'll see you next time for more.